Howdy, Possum Patty here with the Art Journal Flip. If you follow me, you know I do a lot of work in the Strathmore 500 series mixed media journals. But I also use some different journals, and these are by Jane Davenport. These two journals are the Canvas journals. This is the first one that I bought. I already did a flip through this one, but when I did the journal flip at the time, I hadn't painted the cover. These journals come with a plain white canvas cover. I just did some gesso and some collage and just put some acrylic paint on it just to get it covered. And I talk about when I was doing the flip on this journal that I really didn't like the paper that much. I didn't like the texture. And this journal also fell apart when I bought it. The cover came off and I had to glue it back together again. And because I really didn't care for it very much, I went out and I bought another one. Because I figured if it wasn't precious, then I can use it to experiment and I wouldn't be worried about whether I was wasting the pages, and I could carry it around with me everywhere and didn't care what happened to it. And so I bought another one. So I didn't like that one. It did have some fun pages in here. So I went out and I bought another one. This one I did some more collage on. This one, I added words that have to do with diary, keeping it weird, more diary art, deep thinking journey. And then I just put some acrylic paints on top of that, on top of the collage. Here I'm just hiding some personal information. So I'm going to do a flip through of my second Jane Davenport Canvas Journal. First page was New Moon. This little sliver here is New Moon. This is just watercolors and ink. This one was started August in 2018. I did this when I was living in Pennsylvania. We had an invasion of Korean lanternflies. And we were told that whenever we saw one, we needed to step on it because they were harmful to the environment. But they're beautiful, so I had to draw a picture of it, and there's my big shoe. It says, I stepped on a beautiful South Korean lanternfly because I was told I must. A little journaling here. One day, if you look to the east, there was sun and clouds, and if you look to the west, it was raining. So that's a sunflower. A cat just jumped up on my shoulder. So I'll try to work around her. A little journaling. I went to the farmer's market and got a yellow canary melon. It was grown in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I drew a little kitten that was out in the barn, and then the next day I drew some chestnuts from our chestnut tree out front. It's on our farm in Pennsylvania. It was a cool gray day, but the black-eyed Susans were the color of sunshine. I used to go to the North Museum in Lancaster at Franklin and Marshall College with some nature journaling friends, and this day we were doing ocean ecology at the museum. This is watercolor with a little ink. Some more journaling. I noticed a red-tailed hawk flying up into a tree. Some primroses were blooming along the roadside. Taking some notes. And I saw this native wasp on my mountain mint plants and the goldenrod. And apparently this native wasp lays its eggs on beetle larvae, and then the beetle is consumed as the wasp grows. So if you have invasive beetles in your yard, I guess these are a good thing to have. This is the blue-winged digger wasp. Just some more journaling from around the yard. I had a little frog out in my frog pond. I hadn't noticed him for a while, but then one day he popped up. I thought maybe the garter snake had gotten to him. I noticed my milkweed was being eaten by some monarch caterpillars. Had one milkweed pod there. A cocoon that was hanging on a fence around the chestnut tree. I think this might be the eastern swallowtail. Full moon, I had some lunaria seed pods in the garden, did some butterflies, eastern swallowtail, and a fritillary. Golden dragonfly. I also made little notes. Full moon energies for healing, releasing, moving forward. And the dragonfly symbolizes inviting you to explore your emotions in a light and joyful manner. I was taking my mother for a walk and I found a ball of black and white fur. Had no smell to it. I was just wondering what could have left it there, what could have happened. I call that nature CSI. Not sure what left that big ball of fur there. August 29th, already finding some red leaves. A really tall coneflower plant was over 5 feet tall, growing by the condo in Connecticut. Had a family picnic in a pine grove, and I loved looking up into the really tall pine trees, the way the branches grow in whorls around the tree. Back in Pennsylvania, an invasion of those lanternflies again. Here's a kitty. It says, my enemy is Legion. It was the full moon out during the day, and I made up a name for having both the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time, and I call it consular lunarity. Driving by a farm, had some sunflowers growing in a row. September 4th, in the evening, Mars in the sky, sign of energy, action, and desires, bright in the southeast. Its steady red light reminds us that Tuesday is Mars Day, and my grandniece was born that day. A soul just new to the world today will be active, brave, enthusiastic, impatient, courageous, and sometimes just a bit too fiery. So we'll see what happens when she grows up. Some pink lilies down at the frog pond. The lilies are an optimistic spirit of all that is true and beautiful in the world. Receive peace, good fortune, and enlightenment from the lilies. Here's a hurricane. This one was Florence, dancing across the Atlantic. Some nature journaling of Lady Thumb plant. This one's kind of realistic. I drew all the parts and labeled them. A deer came by and ate all the sunflowers off my sunflower plants. A little tiny picture down here of what jack-in-the-pulpits look like in September. The old leaves just kind of mush on the ground, but you can see the fruit from the jack-in-the-pulpit. We're into September, and starting the middle of August now, the geese, the Canada geese, start flying in their formations. There was an apple orchard across the street, and the geese would stop at the apple orchard. I don't know if they were eating the apples or the insects on the apples. September 11th. This is some dyed paper that I had made with the shaving cream and the inks. And I just put it in to symbolize the Twin Towers that fell on 9/11. This September was very rainy. In my rain gauge, we had 7 inches of rain, and it was very warm for days and days in a row, up into the 90s. Hot and rainy for September. Some nature journaling, crickets and grasshoppers, symbolizing joy and happiness coming into your life. I found some monarch butterfly wings out in the garden. Again at the North Museum, it was Butterfly Bees and Birds Day. And I did a picture of a barred owl. Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you? Is what it says. These are all done in watercolor with some ink. Some people walk in the rain, others just get wet. Quote by Roger Miller. We got the remnants of the Hurricane Florence on September 17th. This was something my sister had sent me, and I put it into my, I sketched a poster that she had sent me. Cat's jumping on my shoulder again. And it was a turtle, and he was being very optimistic. It says, "OMG, I'm flying." So that's what you call an optimistic turtle. Always look on the bright side. This was the last Sunday of summer, and it was Sunday. Optimism is a choice. I like this. Some nature journaling. Saw a chipmunk while at a friend's house. I saw this odd-looking creature out in the garden and decided it could be a sawfly larva. Kind of looked like a caterpillar at first, but it wasn't. Some of my friends really don't like this page because they're afraid of spiders. They said it was too realistic looking. Big wolf spider. And recorded some liverwort that I found out by the frog pond. Doing some nature journaling at the Nature Place in Reading, Pennsylvania. The cattails. And I have a story in here about the launch of the Mayflower 2. It didn't fit in the other journal. I actually drew this picture. But I wrote the whole story in this book because I had some blank pages. This is some nature journaling at Nolde Forest Environmental Center, State Park in Pennsylvania. And we were doing some very realistic fall leaves. And I was practicing writing using the brush and watercolors, which I had never done before, so this was fun to practice. Some more journaling at the North Museum in Lancaster. This was Spooky Science Day, so I did a jumping spider and sort of a Halloween creature being frightened by the jumping spider. I did write some interesting facts about the spider here. So it is nature journaling, but I always add something that's fun and whimsical. People say my nature journals are whimsical. This was a bird that I painted over because I didn't like it, and I just kind of left it the way it was. It's not really a realistic bird. It's just a fun acrylic painting of a bird in a pine tree with a pine cone. Doesn't really represent any one particular kind of bird. Just a fun page. I went to a sketchbook workshop at the Cheshire Library in March with Linda Marino, and we just did simple sketches of fruit that were on the table. I also use my journals besides nature journaling, art journaling, note keeping. This is just a bunch of notes I took on some of the mosses and lichens that were in my yard here in Connecticut. This is, again, we have nature journaling on this side and whimsical journaling on this side. All these mushrooms are real, and I've labeled them. And each one of these mushrooms I incorporated into my little Toad Village whimsical picture over here. So you can see an Earth Star. There's the Earth Star. There's a morel. There's a morel over there. So this was a lot of fun to do. Every day in May is a challenge, internet challenge, and I started drawing my cat. The cat in my lap, that's the cat I just had in my lap, jumped on my shoulder. Now she's left. I don't know where she went right now. And I was going to draw it every day in May, but I drew her for 4 days. And then a 5th day, and then I got distracted doing something else. These is just a swatching of the Derwent metallic pencils. Another list. This is birds that I was finding in my new yard in Connecticut. I'm up to 21. My old yard in Pennsylvania, I think I was up to almost 40 different species. I'm up to 21 so far. I also started recording dragonflies and other insects and butterflies that were in the yard. And this is where I was nature journaling with my grandniece, Amelia. And we were doing just some colored pencil drawing in my journal. And on this page also, this was hers, and I was just drawing pictures while she was scribbling around the page. She was about 20 months old at the time. And we're having a really good time with colored pencils and scribbling in my journal. I took the journal with me to the dentist's office. I was going to try and draw people, but there was no one in the dentist's office, so I tried drawing some chairs. I'm not really good at drawing interiors, but this is with color pencil. Here's some space rocks, metallic colored pencils. I think these are the ones that I swatched on this page. Space rocks. A swatching of colored pencils. These are Duet watercolor pencils where you just dip the tip in water, and then I swatched them out. I was at Cabela's waiting for hubby. I was buying something, and I did a quick contour sketch of a rhinoceros. There's a lot of mounts in at Cabela's, and fish tanks and deer. A lot of things you could sketch because the wildlife at Cabela's doesn't move. This is a leaf I did with a very sparkly markers. This is a marker. It says, "How beautifully leaves grow old. Autumn magic." Sitting with my mom out on the deck, I asked her if she could hear the wind blowing the leaves in the trees, and she says, "I don't know what I hear." I gave her a manicure and I sketched her hand. She's 90 years old and totally blind. I put in this little quote, "The days grow short when you reach September." That's from a song. Took the journal with me to Gillette Castle State Park. This is the home of William Gillette. He played Sherlock Holmes on the theater. It's completely made out of stone. Here comes Kitty again. So jump up. Kitty's back again. And this corner of the porch, it looks just like a pile of rocks, but if you zoom in on it, it's actually a dragon's head made from stone. It's really kind of neat. A lot of people walk right by it and don't notice it. This is high up on a hill overlooking the river. It's a beautiful spot to sit and sketch. Doing some selfies. This is done with charcoal sketching with gesso on top. I did this with Art by Sabra, black and white selfies. I did these on different toned paper and then just glue them in. I took the book with me again to Cabela's, quickly sketched the African elephant with ink. I got home, I just kind of painted the rest of the page. This is acrylic marker. There's my cat again, Titi. Story about how she tried to save us one night because she heard the alarm in the basement going off, and we were sound asleep and we didn't wake up, and she kept jumping on my head to wake me up. We went downstairs and it was just the smoke alarm battery was getting low. But she thought she was a hero that day. I took the journal with me to the Foxwoods Casino. Inside in the square, they have a waterfall with some fake rocks. They have a tree. The tree has green leaves, but I made it look like fall. A statue of an Indian with bow and arrow. Took the journal with me to the Old Home Day fall celebration on the Canterbury Green. They had some musicians. I was sketching with a blue pen while they were singing. More of the Mayflower two-story, upside down page. some landscapitos, the mini landscapes of the backyard. We're just showing the fall colors, the golds and the burnt siennas. My favorite color is October, the trees turning bright colors. More of the Mayflower two-story. We took a hike to Diana's Pool in Chaplin, Connecticut. Beautiful, beautiful spot. Tried to do a quick landscape while we were there. Didn't come out very good, but that's okay. Practice, practice. Well, I took some pictures, and when I got back home, this is the picture. It's a little bit slightly different angle, but that's what it looked like. Then I tried to practice the values and the color blocks, shapes. Trying to learn how to do some landscapes on site. Practice, practice. Took the journal to the Creamery Brook Bison farm during Walktober. They let you take a walk through the farm to see the buffaloes. This was a young buffalo who thought she was a cow. She'd been raised with other cows. She didn't know what buffaloes were, so they had to keep her separate, couldn't keep her in with the other bison. Took a trip to Salem, Massachusetts. Got a shirt with this symbol on it. And these are the moons in the different phases. A waxing moon represents the maiden, the full moon represents the mother, and the waning moon represents the crone. We took a visit to the old cemetery. I did this as a cutout so I can make it into a pocket. Put our tickets in there from the different witch museums up in Salem. And then I did an interactive page. I glued 2 pages together, made these little doors here. Stonewalling. Opened a little door. It says, I'm a troll. And then you come down here below the stone wall. It says, that's what I do. You get a little troll there building a stone wall. Not only is October my favorite color, it's also my favorite flavor. I got a box of Trader Joe's gluten-free pumpkin bread muffin baking mix. Made a tasty pumpkin bread. And on the back cover of the book, I just did a quick buffalo and acrylic paint, inspired by our trip to the bison farm. All right, so that's my second Jane Davenport Canvas Journal. 2 are completed now. I went back to Michael's to get a third one, and they didn't have the one with the plain canvas covers. They had one with it's a little bit different feel to the cover, a little bit silkier, and it's already got a design, so either I'll leave it or paint over it, I don't know yet. A little bit different on the inside, but paper feels about the same, or maybe a little bit smoother. We'll see. So I'll start this journal and let you know how it goes. And I thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye now.